impossible has happened! Unbelievable! No record for human life! Off to the races, can they catch it?
Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop
Look
that
out,
man.
here comes the blue coat,
Oh,
Kevin.
they got him.
Here
They're
comes
coming
the
from
blue
the
coats.
left. Oh, and they tackle him at the 40-yard line.
I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love.
And now for our feature presentation.
Balls Deep with Devin and Jovan.
What up, guys? Welcome back to Balls Deep. This week we got some exciting things to talk about. Specifically, our first boxing topic with Mike Tyson coming back. We got some NBA, NFL, and MLB. To start the episode today, we're going to talk about Mike Tyson making a comeback. He's going to be fighting Roy Jones Jr. It's exciting, especially for us being born, when we were not being able to see him fight, even though not in his prime, we get to see him fight now. How are you feeling about it?
It's an 8-round exhibition fight, but I'm just happy, to see Mike Tyson come back. And out of all people, Roy Jones Jr. This fight was long overdue. Roy Jones was making his way up throughout his career in terms of weight classes, and when he finally reached the heavyweight division, Mike Tyson was fading out and into retirement. So before he went on a losing streak, Roy Jones Jr., which was 0-4, Mike Tyson pretty much fought his last relevant fight, you can say, because he ended up retiring in 2005. So as fans, we were hoping this happened sooner rather than later, but we get it. After all, they're 54 and 51 years old, so it is what it is. But it should be exciting. I said, obviously, Mike Tyson's going to be the favorite, especially after all these clips that he's coming out. He's still got that knockout power.
He looks good.
So as long as Roy Jones Jr. still has any ounce of his speed left, this fight should be really interesting.
Yeah, it's exciting. Like you said, it's long overdue. It's something that people wanted to see before, but you see these videos. I haven't seen as much about Roy Jones Jr. and what he's done for training, but obviously you see these videos constantly coming out with Mike Tyson. He looks still, as crazy as it sounds, just as fast, just as powerful as he was in his heyday. So,
sure. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it is scary, and I've even said it looks like he can go with some of these heavyweights now, some of these younger guys. Obviously, I know training is a little different, but
we'll see how he looks in the 8-round fight, and maybe if he feels like he could go 12, then he actually might jump in with one of these guys right now. Off these videos alone, I'd say obviously training is an issue in terms of endurance and durability throughout a fight, but I honestly think he could take Wilder straight up right now.
Yeah. I even heard a couple people saying that it'd be dope, even because you see a lot of these fighters, willing to still fight to this day, even starting a league for older fighters that still want to compete.
Tyson, that's what he started a little business where older fighters can still play their sport. Maybe it's not at the capacity that they did in the past, but somehow, some way they can get them to play again. Like this fight with Roy Jones and Mike Tyson. Roy Jones was saying that he's trying to enjoy retirement, but everyone keeps trying to lure him back in. And this was the fight that he's been trying to have, but now he finally gets to have it. And what you're saying is you really haven't seen much from the Roy Jones camp in terms of what he's been doing. He just released a video of him punching the speed bag. So that's about all he's dropped.
Yeah.
Besides that, it was more of the hype video for this fight where you're saying that Tyson is Goliath and he's David in this instance, which is pretty much true. Especially if you're looking at the betting odds.
Ultimately, I think it's a good thing for boxing because there's a lot of people who never watched it but have heard of Mike Tyson, so might be intrigued to watch boxing now. And there's a lot of people who don't watch boxing anymore because it doesn't seem it's a lot of people feel it's not really the same way it used to be. There's not as many good fighters. Seems like fighters aren't fighting always the best guys.
Yeah. So
maybe it'll bring a lot more views back to boxing.
Yeah, I ultimately think Tyson will win the match or the bout, I should say. I hope Roy Jones puts up a good fight. I just hope this fight doesn't end in knockout. As much as everyone wants to see a knockout, I love both fighters, and I really don't want to see a knockout because I want to see the fight go the length and actually be a good fight throughout.
I don't know about that one. I kind of want to see somebody get knocked out.
Well,
But
me personally,
personally, I'm hoping for a good fight. But I want to see somebody get knocked out. And ultimately, they're two great boxers and two older guys. I'd be surprised. I don't know. It's weird. I'd be surprised to see it go the distance, but I'd also be surprised to see one of them get knocked out. It's weird.
If it doesn't get a knockout, we already know.
They do still have that power, but at the same time.
But if it ends in a
maybe
knockout,
it doesn't translate
we
as
know.
well to the ring.
If it ends in a knockout, we know who's getting knocked out. That's all I gotta say. So let's move on to.
It's not gonna be Mike Tyson.
So let's move on to the next topic, boxing topic. The Gervonta Davis-Leo Santa Cruz fight just got postponed, I should say, to October 24th at Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. I just felt like this was a big moment for Connecticut, us being from Connecticut. It's a big event to kind of bring to Connecticut, and I think us being one of the more advanced states for this coronavirus, it makes sense to bring it here, but I just hope that the coronavirus is no longer an issue to where at least some fans get to go and enjoy the fight.
Yeah, like you said, we're kind of one of the closer states in terms of, getting our numbers to plateau. So, we probably have the best chance in terms of getting people in seats.
Yeah.
So I think it's, like you said, it's pretty cool to see such a big event, in your backyard.
Yeah, and it's a good fight too because Davis, his record is 23-0. 22 of his fights were won by knockout, and then Santa Cruz, he's 37-1-1, and he's got 19 KOs himself. So ultimately, I think Davis will win, and maybe the next fight will be Ryan Garcia. But I just hope for a good fight, especially it being at Mohegan, just so that more fights in the future can come to Connecticut, and we can enjoy it when it's time to go back if we don't get to enjoy this one. But I know there's a bunch of fights leading up to that fight, and hey, there's not going to be no fans for that one, but this one's in October, so maybe we have a chance to at least have limited capacity.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I'm hoping that by then, maybe they'll be able to get some people in seats. Probably still won't be able to go because pricing on that probably is wild, and with less seats, it's going to be even more wild. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to go to that fight, so.
Sure.
But ultimately, it's just going to be really cool to even just, be able to have a big boxing event, like you said, in Connecticut.
Well, that's that for boxing. We'll be back with some NBA news.
Yo, what's up, everybody? King Triple C here, the Olympic champ, the flyweight champ, and the bantamweight champion of the world. In other words, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Meh, that's right. Anyhow, I want to give a special shout out to Devin and Jovan. I know you guys have started your podcast, Balls Deep, with Devin and Jovan. I want to congratulate you guys, and I want to tell everybody that's out there that doesn't know about them to you guys follow them, subscribe to them, and you guys make sure to follow them on all your social media platforms. Because if you don't, you guys can bend knee to Triple C.
All right, we're back with some NBA news. To start off, we're going to actually talk about a funny storyline going on right now with Lou Williams. He had an excused absence in order to leave the bubble, but what he did,
which I heard was for a funeral.
What he did during that time is what we're about to discuss. So he was actually caught, or there was a photo taken of him at a strip club, Magic City's preferred, or specifically, and there was an investigation going on, and now he's forced to quarantine for 10 days now that he's returning to the Orlando bubble. He says it's for wings. What's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. It's weird for me because, like, I think I was reading and there's like 5 or 6 Clippers players now that were out of the bubble at some point or are currently in quarantine. And it's like when you have a team that's doing so well and is poised to make a deep run in the playoffs, one of the favorites, and you have so many of their players, and it's not even just random players, a lot of their like big talent, players who are really heavily relied on in that rotation that are, ending up out of the bubble or in quarantine for one reason or the other. So that seems like a cause of concern, at least for, Clippers fans and the Clippers. It doesn't seem like they care enough or, are taking it serious enough.
Yeah, I mean, for chemistry purposes, it sucks. I mean, other than that, it is what it is.
Definitely.
I mean, as people don't really believe that he went there for wings, I mean, he might have went there for wings and had some entertainment while he was there waiting on his wings, but a lot of the people that criticized him or people in the media like Michael Wilbon or Kendrick Perkins, they've even admitted that Magic City got some good wings. So, I mean, he might have got some wings, and that's really why he went there, but maybe he just went there for some entertainment as he was waiting for his wings.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I mean, I get it, because I love wings just as much as the next guy. Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see how ready the Clippers are when, July 30th comes and they have to play real games rather than scrimmages.
It's just funny because it was a few episodes back, and I told you that how long is it going to take for someone to either sneak into some chicks into the bubble or sneak out for some chicks, and didn't even take the regular season to start.
Like Stephen S.
It didn't even take the regular season to start in order for this to happen. So, I mean, you rather this happen now than later, but still, it's kind of like,
I mean, it's
got priority. Yeah. You got to prioritize.
Definitely. And if it was important, I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure I heard that he left the bubble for a funeral, and if that is the case, obviously, it's more than a good enough reason. And he went to go get some wings. Regardless, I think it's just the fact that it was where he went to get the wings that made this a story. But
I mean, we're talking about the same guy that had 2 girlfriends at one point, so it doesn't surprise me from Lou Williams. But I mean, on his way back to the bubble, if he stopped there to get some wings, so be it. Like you said, if he really went for a funeral, it was a good cause in terms of him leaving the bubble. And he just made a pit stop on his way back. So it is what it is. He's got to quarantine for 10 days, and his team's got to pay for it, essentially. But we'll see it.
They're already in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The only thing it's really going to,
chemistry.
It's chemistry, not being able to play together. So we'll see how much that actually affects them in 10 days.
Yeah.
When he gets to, play a game.
And then between our last episode recording and now, the Knicks got a new coach. Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks came to a 5-year agreement on him being the next coach. And my thoughts, I'm happy for the guy, especially him being from New Britain.
Yeah.
Shout out to you, Tom Thibodeau. I was happy for you in Chicago, and I was cheering for you and rooting for you. I mean, when you went to the Timberwolves, I was doing the same. I was rooting for you, but it just didn't work out. So hopefully it works out in New York. He's big on culture, and the Knicks need a culture switch at the moment. So hopefully he can handle that situation. I think it was a great hire. I think he might get things aligned over there. The only thing is, as much as I love Tom Thibodeau and him being on the new coach of the Knicks, I honestly think they should have hired Mark Jackson. Mark Jackson deserves another chance in the NBA, and being that he played for the franchise as a player, it just made perfect sense just to bring him in. But it is what it is. Hopefully he gets another shot somewhere else. But Tom Thibodeau, I wish him the best.
It seems like a lot of people aren't really happy, or at least Knicks fans aren't really happy about the Tom Thibodeau hiring. A lot of people did say they wanted Mark Jackson, which obviously we understand. He's given a lot of credit for putting together the Warriors team that went on to be a dynasty. But also, I mean, Tom Thibodeau's no scrub. We saw what he did in Chicago when he had that team with D Rose and Butler and them. He always coaches a great defensive team, especially I believe from 2010 to 2014, the Bulls ranked in top 5 in defense. So with that being said, along with the young talent that he has, and like you said, building the culture, which has always been so important to him, I think he can do some pretty special things there.
Yeah, the one thing I think they're missing is a star. I mean, they have R.J. Barrett.
Who has a high ceiling and potential to be.
Yeah, exactly. But I think the one thing they're missing is LaMelo Ball. You pair LaMelo Ball with R.J. Barrett, and you give them a Tom Thibodeau to kind of focus on defense and build that culture. I think it'll be perfect, especially for young guys in New York. In New York being known for his distractions for his players, I think he set the culture straight and make sure that the team is doing what they need to in order to improve. Because right now, the only way is up for the Knicks because they've been terrible.
Yeah, definitely. I saw something that they were saying that they hoped he could be like a Tom Coughlin was for the Giants.
I can see it.
Coming in and kind of doing what, like you said, changing the culture. But also a lot of people did say, in the same sense that Tom Coughlin had to kind of take a step back because he was kind of butting heads with the star players. They feel Tom Thibodeau might need to do the same.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hope he learns from his time in Minnesota. I think he left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, and I think maybe that's why Mark Jackson hasn't got hired again, because maybe he left a bad taste in people's mouths as well. But hopefully they can make the adjustments in order to succeed once again in the NBA.
I don't know. If this don't work out for the Knicks, man, they're going to need Jesus.
You might want to coach the Knicks.
Hell no, I don't.
So the next topic. So the NBA announced that the season awards will be based on the season pre-hiatus. So the performances of the players will be from before this break for the coronavirus and not this resumed season and so forth. So the main question is, who's your MVP?
I said it before the hiatus, and I'm saying it now. As a Lakers fan, I think it's Giannis. I think it's Giannis. For me, he's my clear cut. Everybody's argument for LeBron seems to always be year 17, he's old. I get it. It's impressive. But that's not something I feel you can use as an argument to say LeBron deserves MVP. It has nothing to do with him being in year 17. It has everything to do with him, what he's doing in year 17. Yes, it's impressive, but he also Giannis doesn't have the stars around him like LeBron does. He doesn't have that second superstar in AD. I mean, LeBron's got a lot of that weight lifted off his shoulders. Now he's playing very well, and he's having an MVP caliber season. I just don't see it. Giannis has a much less talented team. Than he does. He doesn't have a second superstar like LeBron does. I just don't think age has anything to do with it. That's the way I feel about it.
This is where we disagree. I think Giannis has an MVP season going on, but I do not think he is the MVP this season. I think LeBron James is the MVP. I'm not saying this because I'm a Lakers fan, because as you know, I haven't been the biggest LeBron fan in years past. So the biggest stat that stood out to me was that with LeBron on the floor, or with LeBron off the floor, the Lakers are 28th in offensive efficiency, and with him on the floor, they're second.
Okay.
So that's the biggest stat that it pops out to me, because we're talking about value here, and in terms of value, that's a big difference when you're bottom of the barrel and then to the top. He's leading the league in assists.
Yep.
This is the first time he's ever done it in his career. And yes, he's not, he has AD, but and Giannis does not. But if Giannis, the Bucks would have made the playoffs without Giannis in the East. Because the East is terrible. Because
But that's everybody always changes the argument every time. But that's the thing. You can't switch up arguments to fit a narrative.
No, but
everybody used to say the East was trash when LeBron was there.
Exactly.
Now the East is still trash when Giannis is there. Everybody used to say, nobody ever brought up value. Obviously it's called most valuable player, but everybody's always chosen who's the best player in the league in that year. Who's the best player for that league year? That's what the award has always been, and it seems like every year that LeBron isn't the best player for that league year, the narrative changes. Why is it that we're going off of value now rather than who's having the best season?
No, look.
That's what I'm saying. I get it's called the most valuable player. I just feel like the award. This is a conversation that's been going on for years. The award's name should be changed. If you want it to be value, then leave it. If you want it to be the best player, then change it. But it was never about value. Nobody ever argued value until LeBron wasn't winning it.
All right.
That's my point.
No, so LeBron didn't win the MVP for years because they said the East was weak, and being in the East, you play the East teams for a majority of the season.
Definitely.
So he's missed out on MVP awards. So what difference does it make with Giannis in this instance? Because everyone said he can't do it in the West, and I was one of them. He moves to the West, and he's. But you're talking about. He's facing a better talent on a consistent basis.
This league year, though.
Yes,
what
I know.
does any other league
But look,
have to do with it?
On a nightly basis, he's playing better competition, and he's doing what he's doing at a high level. Yes, Giannis was the clear-cut MVP for a while, but LeBron was closing the gap as we were moving forward towards the break started. Because if you remember clearly, he beat Kawhi and the Clippers and Giannis and the Bucks right before.
Most recent though. And
yeah,
that's
that's
bias.
That's when.
Did you
but
not
that's
see
when
what
the Lakers.
Giannis and the Bucks did to the Lakers in the first game?
Yeah, but that was also.
Washed them.
Yeah, but that's because the Lakers didn't have nearly as much chemistry as they did moving forward closer to the playoffs. That's what I'm saying. The Lakers were literally.
I just feel like people always
right
change
direction.
the narrative, and you can't refer to other league years when you're speaking on this. Just because LeBron didn't win a bunch of MVPs in the East, now Giannis shouldn't win any MVPs
right, I have a
because he's in
question
the
for
East. It's like saying Derek Jeter shouldn't have gone unanimous because Ken Griffey Jr. didn't. That's stupid.
Question.
Just because Ken Griffey deserved it and he should have gone unanimous, he didn't. Doesn't mean that Derek Jeter doesn't deserve to be because whoever voted for Ken Griffey not to made a fucking huge mistake.
All right,
it's just how it works.
So, question:
you can't change the narratives to fit.
Do the Lakers
what you want.
make the playoffs in the West without LeBron?
Probably not.
Do the Bucks make the playoffs without Giannis?
Probably. That has nothing to do with it. But because you changed the narrative to fit value, though. But you changed the narrative to fit value. And I get, like I said, it's called the Most Valuable Player Award, but nobody's ever had this discussion about value until LeBron wasn't winning it. And that's my point. So either change the name of the award or tell us who's winning this award. Based off what?
I mean, ultimately,
Giannis has been the best player in the league this season.
And I can't dispute that because he's had a great season.
He's had the best season.
But LeBron is the MVP.
And that's fine. I'm just telling you, change the name of the award or tell us that's what we're voting for. Because nobody ever had that until the narrative had to be changed.
bro.
That's all I'm saying.
The impact he has on his team, like I said.
I get what you're saying.
The offensive,
I agree.
The offensive efficiency went from 28 to 2 when he's on the court.
I agree with that aspect of it, but you can't just change that narrative. It's always been the best players award, and Giannis is the best player of the season. And LeBron being in year 17, LeBron being 35,
I didn't mention his age
nothing
though.
I'm just telling you what other people have said for his argument.
I mean,
it has nothing to do with the league MVP.
It doesn't, but for someone who's averaging 20 and 10 at his age, it's pretty impressive.
Oh, definitely.
But that's why I didn't mention the age, because age is nothing but a number.
And me saying this is no slight against LeBron.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's amazing. You know, I'm just saying people gotta make up their minds. What are we voting for here? Or not we, but the best player this year is Giannis.
We'll agree to disagree on this one. We'll be back with some NFL news.
And we're back with Balls Deep. On our next topic, we're going to be talking about the NFL. Starting off with Washington's football team coming up with a new name. It's going to be the Washington football team until they figure out, their name moving forward.
Yeah.
What do you think about their new name, Washington football team?
It's so stupid. It's like they said their old name was under review, and they were gonna think about new names and things like that. So all these fans and stuff like that were being super creative with coming up with names that they possibly could switch to and things like that. And then their long, hard meeting or review, they come up with the Washington football team, which takes no creativity, no thought process. It's like LeBron said, how much did you really think into, how much did you put into this name? It doesn't take that hard. It doesn't take that much time and that much effort to think of the Washington football team. They could have. My little brother could have came up with a better name than that. It's pathetic.
I don't know. For me, I'm a little different because I feel like the way they described it was that's going to be their name until they can get a new name. So for me, I just don't.
It's a gap year.
Yeah, I just don't.
But why sell merch for a year, and then
But I don't know. But why is everybody losing their mind over Washington football team? I'd rather if I were in that position, I'd rather have Washington football team and be able to dwell on what my name is going to be for the next however many years, rather than just choose something right away and.
But you're already reviewing it. You might as well just come up with it. I'm pretty sure they could have came up with the name before the season started. Came out with jersey, they're keeping the same colorway. Yeah. They could have came out with merch, and fans would have gone crazy. But the simple fact that it's a Washington football team is you're selling merch for a year of this, and who knows how much you're actually gonna make.
Yeah, honestly, I think the fact that, like I said, I don't think it's a big deal just off the simple fact that I know they're gonna change it eventually, and rather get the name right than kind of rush into something, because. Not to say they're being rushed into it. I mean, the name change was kind of long overdue anyways. But like I said, really decide on what you want your football team to be named for the next, however many years, like I said. And also, I think the fact that it's going to be Washington football team for only so long might mean they're going to sell even more merch. Because you're not going to be able to buy that merch after limited. So long. It's limited merch.
I mean, a fan on social media said that they should, instead of the Washington football team, they should have called themselves the Washington Team of Football, so that their abbreviation could be WTF. What the fuck?
That's pretty good. That's pretty clever.
Because this franchise, it's perfect for this franchise. It's what the fuck's going on?
But also, there was. When they were at first coming up with these different names, and there were a lot of different names, somebody did buy a lot of the trademarks for a lot of names. That could be another reason. Maybe one of the names they wanted there was no longer available. Maybe they tried to get it, and the purchase price was, the ask price for it was maybe too much.
I mean, like Kenny said, shout out Kenny. He said that someone had the domain for the Washington football team, so they had to sell it anyway. So what does it matter? They were gonna have to pay regardless. Might as well pay for the name rather than a domain.
Definitely, I feel like ultimately, I I feel like a lot of people are just kind of using it as an opportunity to just keep kicking Washington down.
I mean,
to me, it don't bother me that much. Honestly, like I said, sit on it, wait, and just come up with a name you're gonna like, rather than rush it. And like I said, limited merch, people are gonna go insane.
I mean, I'm happy they kept their colorway. Their colorway's dope.
Yeah.
So,
You've always had one of the nicer colorways, with the burgundy. But I don't know. Depending on how long they do choose to stick with Washington football team, I might feel differently. But like I said, ultimately, just knowing that they are gonna come up with something long term. Obviously, just being named Washington football team is ridiculous.
it's like a soccer club. They're gonna be Washington FT. so that's the.
It could be worse.
No, it already is worse. But I mean, we move on to the next topic, and I had put out a clip on social media about this topic. Jamal Adams, it popped off. It finally popped off. So he finally got traded. The Jets and the Seahawks came to an agreement where he gets sent to the Seahawks with a 2022 fourth-round pick for Bradley McDougald, 2 first-round picks, and a third-round pick. What's your thoughts? Who do you think won the trade? Go ahead.
I think it's a win-win. A lot of people think that they overpaid Seattle. A lot of people think Seattle overpaid for Jamal Adams. Ultimately, the Seahawks are in a really good spot. They have a great team. Jamal Adams was a player that kind of brought them from a contender or right outside of that pack of top dogs and kind of leaped them up to the top right there with some of the best teams, in my opinion. It was a great defensive piece they were missing, especially with the loss of their safeties in the last few years. The Legion of Boom hasn't been the same. So I think even though they did give up a lot and maybe too much in reality, I think the fact that they are in such a good spot is what allowed them to do so. And like I said, it's a win-win because the Jets, they gave up one of their best players, but you're getting such a huge return. And the potential you could get with those picks, even though Seattle might be picking up higher, it's still 2 first-round picks, 2 potential future superstars, potential, starters right out the draft. So, it's a win-win in my opinion.
First thought that came to my mind was, what a steal. And wow. It's like, I predicted this, but I did it at the same time. Like, I predicted Seahawks were a really good team.
Expect it,
Yeah, well, I picked the Seahawks to be a team that would, make the move for him, but I didn't expect the Jets to get nearly as much. So, like, do I think they overpaid for him? Sure. But it was necessary in order to get a guy or a piece that they felt would be vital to them going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, Jamal Adams, if I had to be either GM, I'd rather be the Seattle GM and get Jamal Adams in return because you know what he's capable of at this level, and you haven't really drafted well in terms of like your first round picks as of late. So, and Russell Wilson's window of opportunity to win another ring is just decreasing as he gets older. So you got to take advantage of and maximize that window. So this would be a chance to maximize that window, and you get a chess piece in terms of maximizing his value on the defensive end. You shore up your secondary, and he also can help in terms of the run stopping and pass rushing. And he's another leader on that defense. He's going to fill that Cam Chancellor role for them that they had when they had Legion of Boom, but he has the personality of a Richard Sherman that he can bring to that team and kind of help mold the younger members of that secondary. Now, as for the Jets, Joe Douglas, I didn't expect for him to get a first round pick for Jamal Adams, even though as great as he is, he's a safety, so the value for safety aren't really there. But if they did, I didn't expect him to get 2 first round 2 first rounders, and a mid rounder, and a solid safety. Bradley McDougald. He's not a scrub. He's a solid safety. I'm not saying he's a really good player, but they already drafted 2 safeties in the past few years, and now you get Bradley McDougald to add to the rotation. So you get a solid player, and you get all this draft capital to put in and kind of disperse in terms of the rest of their squad. Because, yeah, when you have a talent of Jamal Adams' stature, you don't want to get rid of him. But the Jets were nowhere near winning, and all that money that they would have spent on him, they could spend elsewhere and spread it out, because in these primary positions that you necessarily need for a championship team, like quarterback, tackle, cornerback, pass rush, they're missing a lot of those. Like, they got their quarterback, they just drafted a tackle, so they're still missing 1 tackle. Their corners, they've had a corner problem for a while. They still need pass rush. So now those first round picks and the mid round pick can go towards that, and all that money can go towards that. Yeah. So, like, long term, Jets, this is a great move for them long term. Short term, Seahawks, this was a great move for you guys. It's a win-win situation.
Ultimately, that's why I say it's a win-win. I mean, especially when you have Jamal Adams being as outspoken as he's been recently, saying that he doesn't think his own head coach is the right person to lead the team. Personally, if I'm the Jets, personally, if I'm the Jets, I mean, and I hear a player say that about my coach, that's alarming, and that's going to start to put questions in my head about my coach. But the Jets ultimately decided to get rid of, one of the cornerstones. But like you said, and like I said, I think it's a win-win, because now they have those picks to go grab those pieces that they need. Now all they need to do is draft the right players.
For sure. That's the main reason why I said if I was a GM, I'd rather be in the Seahawks position, because you know what you're getting. But
and ultimately, I think that's the way GMs think, and that's why the Seahawks weren't afraid to give up those those first rounders. But it is surprising to see the Jets able to get those 2 first rounders, because they kind of didn't really have any leverage in the situation. And that's why he wasn't happy there. He didn't really want to be there anymore. He was like, I heard he was asking other Cowboys players, to try to get a trade
at
done
the deadline. But I heard that was false, because he said that it was false. But it is what it is. But I just think in order for them to get that much in return and had no leverage, it's a win. And for them to get as much as they did, it's a great win. Yeah. So I think they're putting belief in their development of young talent. Seahawks have a history of not really developing their first round picks or their first picks very well. So it's a win on both sides ultimately. And Joe Douglas, he had time with the Ravens, who have had great drafts in past years. So like, he has a history of being a part of franchises that can do this. So hopefully he can bring this to the Jets and help them out as much as possible. But you don't really know where you're going to get until you actually get those players. So that's why that's the tougher end of the deal. The Seahawks already got the guy who's developed and ready to play. The Jets now kind of have to do the hard work. But ultimately, they did probably what's better for their team in the long run. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward. If we do have a season, they play week 14, so that should be very interesting with all this beef between Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams.
Le'Veon, you see him week 14.
Yeah.
But I think Le'Veon's going to run through him, so we'll see.
I disagree, but I hope Le'Veon, comes back to what we're used to from him. So, but
we'll see week 14.
We'll see. We're going to move on to our last segment of the episode, which it will be some MLB news.
Be right back.
All right. We're going to move on to the last segment of the day, which is some MLB news. We're going to actually start off with opening day. So it was not that long ago. Glad to see baseball being back. But it might, end sooner rather than later. So with the most recent outbreak, a few players around the league were tested positive for coronavirus. One of them was Juan Soto of the Nationals. He had to miss the opening day against the Yankees. And then as recent as today or yesterday, pretty much the whole Marlins team at least had 14 plus cases of positive coronavirus testing. So,
yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I don't know. It's pretty scary. The MLB season seems more in danger than ever. It seems like a lot of teams are having trouble with players testing positive or trying to find a reliable place to play their games. I know we were just talking about how Toronto wasn't sure where they were going to play, and they got offered to play in a few spots. I think one of them was in Baltimore. They even got offered to play in Hartford, in Yard-Gold Stadium. So it's just a lot of uncertainty with the MLB. But also, Governor Cuomo from New York offered the state up to kind of do like a NBA bubble type of thing within the state. Which would probably be nice and probably the easiest way for them to go about the season.
The only thing with that is before they even started the season, they try to do something similar.
Yeah.
They try to create a bubble atmosphere in Arizona, but the MLBPA actually voted against it because a lot of the players weren't willing to stay there and stay away from their families.
Yeah.
But right now if the MLB season doesn't happen, it's just honestly because the because of the players, the MLBPA.
But it's a lot tougher when you're speaking to MLB to NBA because you got to think
national players.
Well, not only that, and the fact that the NBA season is over nearly.
Yeah.
They just have the rest, basically the playoffs, and then.
But this is a shortened season. It's almost basically like.
But it's still a 60-game season.
Yeah, but it's almost like a month or two where you can get all the games out of the way.
Yeah.
Where that's almost the same tenure as the NBA season or the resume season, I should say.
I mean, it's a lot bigger rosters.
Yeah.
Like you said, international players. It's tough. Like I said, ultimately, I hope that the season still goes on and safely. But when you see nearly an entire team test positive, and then you have to postpone most of their games, and then their opponents have to
the rosters and coaching staffs are
adjust.
So big.
Yeah.
Like I seen a clip where a coach actually was storming out of the dugout to argue with the ump, and the ump had to hurry up and rush to put on his mask.
Yeah.
To argue.
In the MLB, it just it seems like there's a lot less room for error because it's so big. So many players.
I mean, they had a pretty solid plan in place. I mean, it would have been better to have it in one state. New York would be, I think, the perfect state, being that they're one of the more advanced states in terms of the COVID-19. They start off as one of the worst, and just like Connecticut, and they're one of the best at the moment in terms of maintaining it. So, and it's a big enough state to have tons of fields that they can have almost like a Little League World Series kind of atmosphere. But it would be in New York and kind of spread out a little bit.
Yeah, but it makes me start to worry a little bit about the NFL season as well. Because then you start to think the rosters are even bigger than MLB.
Yeah, coaching staffs.
So if the MLB is having trouble with doing it, especially in a non-contact sport, just imagine how it's gonna have to go in the NFL. Players are gonna really, really have to be.
I'm just happy that the commissioner of baseball, he came out and said that this hiccup in terms of the Marlins he's not worried about it in terms of it ending the season, which brings confidence to fans, but it brings confidence to other sports as well, like the NFL.
Definitely.
Just because he seemed to kind of talk about the subject in a calm manner, in which we were expecting this to happen, so we have a plan in place for things like this.
Definitely.
So if they have to cut off the state of Florida, I'm not saying the Marlins cut them off, just them relocating them elsewhere, almost like the Blue Jays, and just staying away from the state of Florida, which is a hot zone at the moment in terms of coronavirus. You have to do what you have to do in order to continue with the season. Because with all this traveling for these teams, it's bound to happen that we're going to get some positive tests here and there, but for a team to have 14 plus like positive tests, and then you're interacting with other players from other teams. I mean, the players have to be held accountable as well, because I heard they were still giving high fives and stuff like that. Like, you have to do better in terms of that. It's kind of hard to not to do it.
Still giving hand sanitizer at first base.
So I mean, they gotta just do better. I mean, it's not easy, especially because it's almost second nature. Like, when someone hits a home run, you storm out and kind of attack them at home plate and things like that. But you gotta take the necessary precautions in order for this to happen. It's a lot of people's livelihoods and a lot of people's lives are at stake, and they have to go home to their families and put them at stake as well. So it's not just sports. It becomes personal at some point.
Yeah, I mean, when you see the way that they handled it, at least thus far, I mean, as soon as they found out that the Marlins had tested positive, they stopped them from playing. The Phillies, who they opened up against, are currently stopped playing, and they were actually supposed to start or play against the Yankees. So that's postponed.
That's postponed. They're at a standstill. Marlins aren't going to play again until Monday. The team that the Marlins were supposed to play next in Florida was the Baltimore Orioles. Their series with the Yankees got moved up, so the Yankees will be playing the Orioles next, and the Phillies are just on a hiatus, just as precautionary purposes, to make sure that no cases
definitely. And like I said, it's definitely relieving to see how well they handled it, but going forward, inevitably more people catching it. I mean, we'll see how things go. I mean, it's kind of, you got to take it on a day-by-day basis. You got to see, I mean, people are getting tested every single day, after games, probably before games. So it's really, this entire season's day-to-day. Yeah. And for all of our sports, other than the NBA, really, because they have the best, kind of plan in place, kind of the best situation, which, like I said, it is easier being, roster sizes being way smaller, coaching staffs being way smaller, so it is a little easier. But, I mean, our sports seasons are kind of day-to-day. I mean, they could come to a halt at any point, so.
Yeah, I'm not that optimistic about football season happening, but we shall see how it works out for baseball. The MLBPA didn't come to an agreement on a bubble in Arizona. Maybe they do so in New York. But one thing that they did come to an agreement on was expanding the playoffs. They're going to do a 16-team playoffs, 8 teams from each league, the AL and NL. The seeding is just a bit weird, so I'm just going to have to read off for a little bit. So every first and second place team in Major League Baseball will make the playoffs in 2020. The 2 teams in each league with the best record outside of those 6 will round out the playoff field. So seeds 1 through 3 will go to the division winners based on record. So the division winners, whoever has the best record, will be seed 1 and so forth. Seeds 4 through 6 will go on to the runner-ups of those divisions based on record, will determine the seeding, and then 7 and 8 will ultimately be the wild cards, and whoever has the best records left out of the conferences will then get it. So I think it's good for sports and the sport of baseball, just having more competition, and it doesn't seem like any team will have a bye week in a sense, or a break for come playoff time. So I think bringing that March Madness type of atmosphere to baseball, the baseball playoffs is already ridiculously intense. So to kind of bring that kind of atmosphere where no team has a break, regardless of seeding, would be dope. And I think they're going to have a draft in terms of the top seeds being able to select their opponents, which is another variable to think about too. So it's going to be very interesting for the sport of baseball, but in terms of competition, we get even more playoff baseball, which can only benefit the fans.
Yeah, I think it's dope for a lot of reasons. Like you said, it's a shortened season, so expanding the playoffs gives us a little bit extra games. But also, if there's any time you're gonna try something different or try something new, it's gonna be on a shortened season like this. It's kind of all sports are dealing with an unknown.
Yeah.
So they're just trying to make the best of it that they can. And, I mean, like you said, it's more competition. It's giving those teams that maybe wouldn't have made it throughout a full season an opportunity to maybe push for a playoff.
And play more games.
Yeah, and play more games.
Develop their young talent.
Definitely. So, I mean, it's a great thing. It just, like I said, it gives them an opportunity to see how this works out on this shortened season. Maybe it's something that they've been thinking about doing for a while now, and now they get to check it out and see how it works. But also, it gives us more baseball on a season that's kind of weird. It's something that
and the players ultimately wanted.
We never got to see before.
And the players ultimately wanted more games, so that's more games for you. You earn it. You'll be in the playoffs and get to play more games. And if it pans out, they might actually expand it and push it to other seasons.
Yeah.
Even though the season is already 160 plus games long, like you'll have an extended playoffs as well. I think if they do push it onto other seasons, they might shorten the season a little bit. But just the expanded playoffs got me excited because I love playoff baseball.
Definitely.
You definitely don't get any better than that, in my opinion.
I love playoff baseball. I think it's one of the best playoff. I think it's one of the best playoffs for any sport.
I agree.
But also, like, a lot of people are wanting baseball to be fun again and be better. This is a good opportunity for the MLB and baseball and the commissioner to see what things work out, what things make the game better for people to watch, what things make it more exciting.
Yeah, they're always trying to tweak the rules.
It's an opportune time to make changes.
Yeah, they're always trying to tweak the rules because a lot of people complain about how long the games are and things like that. So they always try to tweak it to shorten the games, just to make it more fun and entertaining for people to watch. Not only because going to a game is totally different than watching on TV. Going to a game doesn't get any better than that. The atmosphere is ridiculous. Watching on TV, I understand where people can come from, where it kind of can get boring just listening to the commentators speak. Yeah. Me as a baseball fan, it doesn't get boring, but from others, I can understand. So for baseball's perspective, you want to attract to the youth, and you want to get youth to, grow up to want to play baseball and be a baseball player, and that way we're more integrated as a sport than we currently are. Like, let's say we get more African Americans to play the sport of baseball than they currently are. You kind of want that percentage to go up because there's a lot of Hispanic heritages playing the sport at the moment. It's a Hispanic majority sport. So just becoming more integrated and will be better for the sport, and I think this is a great opportunity to do so, just attracting to the fans. And speaking of race, Mookie Betts, one of the only African American baseball players currently in the league. He actually was the first baseball player to take a knee for the national anthem. He just got paid. He got his mega deal that he was looking for.
Contract.
He got that mega deal that he was looking for from the Red Sox, but ultimately didn't pan out, and they traded him to the Dodgers this offseason, and the Dodgers gave him that money, 13 years, $392 million, and the difference between that deal and the Patrick Mahomes deal, it's all guaranteed.
Yeah, it's another one of those baseball deals. It's weird. Baseball's kind of always been weird to me in terms of contracts. When you see all these guys getting these 10-year, 11-year, 12, 13-year contracts, and they never work out for the amount of time. But for some reason, these contracts are still, like, as prevalent. It's kind of weird. But, I mean, ultimately, I'm happy for Mookie Betts. He's a great player.
Yeah, congratulations to you.
He's one of the best players in the MLB. He was a great player for the Red Sox. The Dodgers got a really great player for a really long time. We'll see how long he'll be at that level for this contract. But ultimately, the Dodgers got a great player.
They've been looking for
They
that
have
player
a
too.
solid lineup already, and with Mookie Betts in that lineup, they're already a favorite in the NL, and they're probably even bigger favorite now.
Oh, for sure. I have them coming out of the NL.
I think everyone does.
Just with their pitching rotation alone,
Yeah.
and now that they got Mookie Betts, but with it being a shortened season, it's even more prevalent that they have that much talent. But they've been looking for that star in recent years, with them trading for Manny Machado and hoping to sign him to a big deal, but it didn't work out that way. They got Mookie Betts. They signed him to a big deal. They gave up a lot for him, so I figured this was going to be the one to work out in terms of getting that deal done. He's been having MVP-like seasons for the past few years now, so it's good to see him get his due. But it's also good to see him find financial stability for him and his family, and to be in La La Land doesn't get any better than that. Other than being in New York.
Ultimately, I think the Dodgers got the player they were looking for. I mean, like you said, they had Machado and they had Puig that didn't really work out, but Mookie Betts is more of a locker room guy than those two, where he can be a leader in your locker room, and he's not gonna be an issue off the field in terms of distractions. With media or whatever story is gonna come up with hustle or whatever, like Machado or just Puig being Puig. So
and I think he fits that team more, not just because of the locker room, but the fact that they brought in Machado, who was playing third base with the Orioles, but his primary position was shortstop, and he had made the move early in his career with the Orioles, but then shifted over to shortstop, and he didn't really want to play anything other than shortstop. But they already have Cody Bellinger, who is their shortstop at the moment, and he's a bright young talent in the league. And although Machado played third base with the Dodgers, that's not where he wanted to be, so he wasn't truly happy. Whereas they could always use that outfield talent, and Mookie Betts is one of the best in the league.
Ultimately, I feel like it's a lot easier to rotate your outfield as well than it is to move around your pieces in the infield.
But now this season with the universal DH, he could also take breaks and play DH as well. But hopefully that universal DH continues for their benefit. But if not, that's just one less thing that the Dodgers gives them one less option.
Yeah, but I'm happy for Mookie. Unhappy as a Yankees fan, knowing that the possibility we get to that World Series, he's going to be in that lineup. But ultimately, that's just the respect I have for him. He's a great player. We do have Garrett Cole.
So,
but that's it for today's episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're following us on all platforms, liking, subscribe. Leaving comments, telling your friends about us. Tell us what you like and don't like. Show some love. We appreciate it.
I think you said it all. Just make sure to like, follow, subscribe on every social media platform. Like you said, comment. We love some feedback. We'd love to interact with you guys as fans. Just tell us what you want, and we'll see what we can do to make it happen. And wherever you get your podcast, this is what we're trying to do. So just tune in.
We're everywhere.
Literally.
So
thank you guys for tuning in.
Thanks.
If it's your first time or your last, or not last, if it's your first time here, or you've been following us from the beginning, we appreciate you. And tune in next time with more Balls Deep. That's it. Peace.
You're talking about balls deep.
I'm talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep.
My boy's talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love.
Alrighty.
That's serious.
Alrighty.
Candy's horrible for your teeth. It's horrible for you.
Said alrighty.
I'm
Who are you
just
trying to
telling
convince?
you. I'm not trying to convince nobody. Are we
Alright,
ever
Kenny.
fucking open up with the MLB, huh? You fucking jamoke.
You're opening up, you hope.
I just opened up.
Yeah, and I opened up the other ones, didn't I? No, you opened up the other one. Okay, got you.
Opened it up. Okay?
Alright, fuck you, bitch.
This guy fucking fucking retarded?
Ooh, he said the R word.
Shut up, Kenny. I'll delete it.
But will I?